Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Stress Podcast. I'm very excited to welcome our next podcast guest to the show and a reoccurring guest that we already had on the show last year, and it is Simone. Hi Simone, how are you today?
Hello, Julia. I am very good today. Thank you.
Great. I'm so happy that we got together today and I hear another wonderful Australian accent because I actually had another Australian podcast guest on the show last week.
Yeah, our Aussies get out there.
Yeah, the Aussies are getting out there. I love it. I have a big passion towards Australia. I lived there for 6 months in 2010, and I'm super excited to have the pleasure with you today again, Simone, and chat with you a little bit more about how to relax into stress. But before we get started, as you know, I always like to ask you 3 questions, and it's actually even more interesting this time around because I'm kind of curious to compare the insights that you shared with us last year versus this year. So the 3 questions are, where are you? What time zone are you in, or what time is it? And what were you up to this morning before you jumped on the podcast today?
So I am in Peregian Beach in Queensland, Australia. It is 5 minutes past 9 in the morning. And this morning, I got up at 4:30 a.m. Because I have a super busy day today and I wanted to move my body. It's which is interesting because I think that's part of the topic today too is, for me, relaxation is making sure I move my body. So I went and had a personal training session this morning at the gym at 5:30 a.m., a boxing session. And it was so we got there and I was like, it's dark. And I was like, whose idea was this? My trainer and I laughed. And the birds were so loud because we did it outside and it was amazing. So I've done that. And then I also did a class this morning. I had a 10-week class based on my second book that I wrote called Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. And it was the 10th week. So we had an hour-long call with everyone who was on that class. So I've done that and then ate some really yummy breakfast.
Nice.
And now I'm here with you.
Very great. And tell us, are you always getting up at 4:30 in the morning, or was that just a special day for you today because you had so much going on?
It was a special day for me today. But I'm going to say, Julia, I liked it. It wasn't the easiest thing to get up at 4:30, but once it's all, good and done, it was pretty easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, nothing that you can sustain over time, but from time to time, it's kind of fun to have these days too.
Well, in Australia, I think it's always really interesting because the birds are so loud. And so you do tend to wake up earlier, although we are sort of moving more into the cooler months. So the sun is not up, as early. But the birds are always awake at like 5 a.m. So my bedroom is, I sleep with my doors open and I've got all these beautiful native trees outside and then the ocean across the road. So as I go to sleep and wake up, you just hear the ocean like crashing down on the rocks, etc. And then, the possums at night you hear, and then in the morning you wake up to the birds. So generally in Australia, you tend to wake up pretty early anyway.
Yeah. What would be your usual time when you get out of bed?
I would say getting out of bed anywhere between 5 and 6.
And is that because you wake up that early or because you set your alarm that early?
No, I wake up that early. But I work, I work around the world. So in Australia in the morning, Europe is still awake and the US is awake. So in the morning, I tend to have a lot of meetings, but my body just wakes up here. It's easy.
Very nice. Cool. Simone, just as a reminder for the people that are listening to you for the first time today, can you give us a quick introduction into who you are and what you do for work?
Yeah, my name is Simone Milasas. I live in Australia. I travel all around the world, and when people ask me what I do, I have different answers. I told this guy once in a restaurant in Houston, Texas, that I travel around the world making people happy, and he just went, "I'm leaving it at that." He goes, I just want to imagine you traveling around the world making people happy." But I work with access consciousness, and I do seminars all over the world. I've written a few books. I've worked with access consciousness tools and processes for over 20 years.
Mhm.
Before that, I traveled a lot. I worked in so many different industries trying to explore, I guess, the world and discover what it is that I truly desired. I guess the main theme for me throughout my whole life is I've always wanted to create a difference in the world. Like, I've always wanted
Mhm.
to empower people to know that there's a different possibility, and also acknowledge the communion that we have with the earth, and that we can actually increase that. And yeah, I guess increase the happiness quota as well. So there you go. Maybe I was correct in talking to the
Yeah.
guy in the restaurant in Houston.
Uh-huh. And for those of you that don't know what access consciousness is, can you tell us a little bit more about that as well?
Yeah, access consciousness is basically a set of tools and processes to change any area of your life that you think is not working for you. Like,
Mm.
so many people have different areas of their life that they go, "Oh yeah, I've got this, down, organized, I'm happy with this." But usually there's an area of their life that they struggle with. It might be money. Some of the common themes would be money, relationships, body, business, and things like that. But what I would like people to get is, you don't actually have a struggle and you don't have a problem with it. That is, you have a different choice. So
Mm.
if you made a different choice, say in regards to money, or in regards to your body or your relationship, what would you like to choose, and start taking some action towards that? So access is, it's basically empowering you to know that you know. I've never come
Mm.
across anything in my life before that is so empowering for you to choose.
Mm.
And interesting enough, so many people don't like to make that choice. They want to blame everything out, everyone, and everything else of why something's not showing up. But in truth, you choose. The way you wake up in the morning is your choice. Do you wake up happy? Do you wake up frustrated? Do you wake up, anxious? Whatever it is, that is your choice. So
Mm.
what are you choosing? So it's we talk about choice and we sort of throw it around
Mhm.
everywhere,
Mhm.
and yet
Mhm.
there's so much power and potency and a strength, and a courage in choosing. So, but that's what access basically is. We have body processes, lots of different things.
Mhm. Very cool. And so, I always love to talk and chat with my podcast guests a year later because I think it's such a powerful question to hear. How was your last year? What happened? What were maybe the surprises? What were the challenges? And what did you learn about yourself?
Oh
Those were a
God.
lot of different questions. So let's
Yeah.
start with
No, no,
how was
I know, but
2020?
uh, I um I I think my life has changed so much, and I think it is interesting having a look at a year and seeing how
Mm.
much it's changed and the choices you've made. And there's a lot of things that I guess show up that you would think is like a struggle or a hurdle, and to jump over it and really have a look at what's going on. Like, I've had some things show up in the past year that I've gone, wow, really? I have to deal with this.
Mhm.
And what I'm noticing is, it's the universe. I mean, it sounds so cliche, but I think it's true. The universe never delivers you anything you cannot handle. And for
Right.
me, like, even right now, I'm going through some stuff at the moment, some legal stuff, and I'm educating myself so much and learning so much about the law. And it's not the easiest thing in the world. And yet I know I'm going to come out more of me on the other end. I know I'm going to come out, being more of me and being a greater person based on this. So
Mhm.
it's like yeah. And in saying that, I'm going to say I'm also happier. I
Mm.
am the best version of me that I've ever been. And I was talking to someone the other day about how I wouldn't want to be in my 20s for anything.
Mm.
I also probably wouldn't want to be in my 30s. It's like my 40s just got better and greater. And it's like now I'm in my early 50s. And it's like, to me, it's like I feel like the world it's becoming easier for me. And I mean, someone even said to me the other day, you look younger. And I was like, I feel like I'm getting younger as I quote unquote increase my age according to, you know, this world, this reality. So yeah. So, and I've started traveling a lot more. I mean, the world opened up a lot more, but also, Julia, I'd say the biggest thing that I have incorporated is, which is interesting, I just spoke about it before, is choice. I really looked at my life and what I was choosing, and if I was choosing it for me or choosing it for somebody else, including, you know, access that I work with that I absolutely love and adore, and the people around me. But if I realized if I was choosing for someone or something else, then I would end up destroying it based on I wasn't truly choosing it for me. So I've really spent a bit of time looking at my life and going, okay, is this for me or is this for someone else? And like, I don't know, I think you get more growing up as you get, it's like, you're like, okay, I can handle this. So what is it that I would like? You don't have these needs or these necessities of things that you thought were important anymore. So yeah,
Right.
there's more freedom in my world as well.
Yeah. And I see a lot of confidence there too, right? The more you know what you want and the more choices you make and the more you learn that those choices are usually the right ones, it gives you more confidence to actually continue in that way, right? Continue towards
Yeah.
that.
Well, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, actually, in amongst everything else that I did, about judgment. And because I notice every now and then I get a little like weirded out when I hear about judgments that people have of me. And I was talking to him and he was like, but Simone, you keep choosing, you keep moving forward, you keep being this leader. Like you keep, and it is interesting because, and I was like, you know, do you go, oh, well, why do people judge me? Or, you know, sit in that, but it's like, why do you care? You know what I mean? Like we spend, like, I know my younger years, God, I used to choose boyfriends based on if my friends liked them or not based on if I liked them, you know, like that's way younger. And it's like, I think you give up that thing of where you find it so necessary to care about what other people think. And then you keep choosing and you keep moving forward and you keep moving forward. And what I notice is as you choose that and you become more of you, it tends to have this place of like derailing everybody because they can no longer put you in a category. They can no longer like fit you into this box. It's like you start to, I guess, freak them out because they're like, well, what is she going to do next? You know? And being okay with that, but really being okay with that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think a lot of people need to hear that as well and need to, from hearing other people's stories, get the courage to test that out in their own lives as well.
Yeah, I mean, I need to hear it. Even talking to you this morning, it's like, you know, people think you've got it all together and etc. And you sort of do, and you don't. It's like there's moments where you're just like,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
And I need to also talk to myself and tell myself that as well. Like a couple of the questions I do ask myself is when I find myself getting that like bit of a hiccup on looking at what people think, etc. I'm like, why do I care? Why am I making that relevant? And most of the time I get to the awareness that it's making it relevant and I care, and I'm like trying to make myself care about this based on making myself smaller rather than, okay, what if I was in total allowance of what other people's points of views are and I just keep choosing? Like, don't stop, you know? Don't stop choosing what you love and what you can create in the world based on other people who are not choosing it. Like, that's the one piece, Julia, that I've really discovered over the years is when someone has judgments of you, because judgment is not real, it's made up, right? And it's like, but have a look at like their life and what they're choosing and have a look at your own life and what you're choosing. And what I have discovered is that person judging me or are they judging what they have not yet chosen and might never choose? If you make them uncomfortable, and just because you make someone uncomfortable doesn't mean that you have to start suppressing you. Like, what if we all stopped trying to suppress ourselves to make ourselves normal? Because we're not normal. I'm not. I don't fit in. I don't. I've never have fitted in, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah.
tried. It didn't work.
Totally. I feel like it always starts with you, like even when you see judgment come up or triggers come up in another person, I think it's always so powerful to ask yourself the question, why is this actually triggering me? Like I think I've learned this a
Yeah.
couple of years ago in my first yoga teacher training certification, actually, because they were talking about just, they're inviting us to pay attention to what is triggering us and other people, and then bringing it back to ourselves and asking ourselves, what does it actually have to do with me, and what is maybe some area in my own life that I'm not happy with and that gets triggered maybe from that other person or that other situation. And it's the most powerful question, I feel like, that you can ask yourself when you feel like you're being triggered, or when you're starting to feel judgmental about someone or something.
Yeah, what am I reacting to this for? What am I making relevant about this? Yeah, I think they are really powerful, potent questions. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you have obviously been working with stress and stress management techniques for many, many years. And I'm really curious to hear, how do you feel like you're managing stress now in your early 50s? Do you feel like you're still learning every single year? Do you feel like there are still situations that super trigger you, or where you feel super stressed and you feel like close to burnout? How does Simone manage stress today?
Yes, I do get, like, every year, every day is a different day and brings something new. The burnout thing has never really hit me. I think mainly because I do make space for myself, like whatever that may be. I mean, I sometimes work really long days, or I work incredibly odd hours, like, because I get so busy in the morning, and maybe at night I have a couple of meetings, but then throughout the day there's this lull, so then I will incorporate something for me. There's a few things that I've looked at, and one is relaxation. And Gary Douglas, who I work with, he's the founder of Access Consciousness. But like, I think it was like 18 years, he would say to me about so many things: relax, relax, relax. Like, no matter what it is, relax, And I'd be like, okay, relax, because I'm very, like, quick, speedy, and I get things done, and I'm like, and I'm very direct. And he would always say to me, relax. And I'm standing in the kitchen one day, and a friend of mine was there, and she overheard the conversation, and she said to me, hey, what is relaxation for you, Simone? And I realized, I looked at her and I went, I have no idea. Like, so many of us identify relaxation as, it might be like going to bed early, getting a massage, having a bath, all of this sort of stuff that we sort of put into this category of that's relaxation. And also what I've discovered is a lot of people have the point of view that if they relax, they're being lazy. Like, at one stage, my mother said to me, you have no idea how to relax. And I looked at her and I was like, of course. I went, oh my God, I have no idea how to relax. And then I went, well, hang on a second. What's her definition of relaxation? And her definition of relaxation would be sitting in front of the TV for hours on end, and I went, well, yeah, you're right. I don't, according to you, like that. I have no interest in that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a good, series on Netflix or something like that, but it's not my daily routine. And so I live across the road from the beach, and there was these 3 days in a row that I went, what if I just start exploring what relaxation is? So as I walked on the beach, I ran this process that we would, like, run in Access, right? And this is how the process went. And you can, if you want, you can, like, write this down, record it, put it on a loop, etc. And this is what I ran. I wrote, what energy, space, consciousness, choice, magic, miracles, mysteries, possibilities, power, and potency can my body and I be that would allow us to be total relaxation for all eternity with ease, joy, and glory? Just ask the question. And everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine, shorts, boys, perverts, and beyonds, which is the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement. And you can find out more about it on theclearingstatement.com. But it basically is, it clicks like on a computer. It's like clicking all the delete buttons that you have on your computer, so that you have this clean slate, like this space where you get to discover what your point of view is instead of picking up on all the, the thoughts, feelings, and emotions of others. So I ran this process over and over again for 3 days. I didn't walk on the beach for 3 days. Every day I went out there 3 days in a row. And as I was walking along, Julia, I was like, on the third day, I went, time started to just sort of become not relevant. And I realized, wow, if time is not relevant, because how often do we do that? We go, oh my God, what time is it? I've got to do this. Oh, this is the time. Oh, quickly, we've got to, and it's everything. Put the dinner on, pick the kids up, to do a podcast, to wake up, and we'll do that thing of going, oh, I woke up late. And I'm like, what does that even mean? Like, and we have all these things on time. And as I went, oh, if I was totally relaxed, then time wouldn't be so relevant. And would I accomplish more? Would I create more? Would I choose more? What if I let myself discover that what would I choose from that space of relaxation where time wasn't the driving force? And then as I allowed that to sort of seep into my world, I went, wow, judgment starts to, cease. Because then you're not judging yourself for what you have or haven't done. You have this relaxation. And so what I've noticed is, like, even with this podcast, it's like, you don't put this into the not relaxing because you're doing a podcast. No, choose the podcast from relaxation, cook dinner from relaxation, watch a Netflix series from relaxation. It's like drive your car from relaxation. It's like, engage. For me, it's like I do lots of seminars, facilitate the seminar from relaxation. And what I noticed with that is I have more of me, but I don't just have more of me, I have more of the world. I have more of the possibilities because your focus, your attention, your energy is not constricted. It just goes like everywhere. So you'll hear that whisper, you'll hear the dog barking, you'll hear the something, and you'll know, oh, okay, it's time for me to do this, or it's like this, call this person, etc. So I've noticed as I play with this energy, because it is an energy, it's like you play with this energy of relaxation, there's more possibilities available. And I think we've all been sold this, dirty, rotten lie that we have to not function from relaxation. We have to function from focus, figure this out, boom, 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 like think about it, do it. And it constricts us, which then creates that stress and that overwhelm. You don't need to be overwhelmed. I mean, for me, one of the tools I use a lot is nature. I will always look out at nature. I mean, I'm surrounded by it, which I'm very grateful for. I think my backyard is like a National Geographic show. At night, it's like the possums come in, and during the day, it's like the birds and the frogs and the geckos and everything. And so for me, I observe that and watch nature and how they interact and engage with each other. And that ecosystem that is such a contribution with no judgment, with no time, they just choose as they choose. And what if we could be more like that with everything that we chose?
Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. And it's so resonating with me because I feel like I work also within myself, but also obviously the people that I attract and that I work with. I think there's always that notion of time is very limited, right? And our work days are really limited, and we need to cram in all of these different to-do lists and to-do items that we have on these lists in order to feel accomplished at the end of the day. And I love, and that's something that resonates obviously so deeply with me as well, because it's something that I need to hear as well. I love the idea of disconnecting from time and feeling like certain things always need to happen at a certain moment, right? And I think obviously the problem with that is that so many others are connected to that idea that time is limited and there are timelines and deadlines. How do you work with that, right? So even if you have that notion of time is actually not limited and I'm kind of going to disconnect myself from that idea, how do you still function in this world?
Well, I've got a perfect example, and the example is you and me. I mean, when we originally went to do this podcast and it came on, and I mean, I'm sure you don't mind me talking about
No.
this. It's
Yes,
like,
sure.
and you said to me, you said, hey, I am coming on to sort of greet you and say hello, but I need to change this podcast. I've been at my computer all day and I need to go and do something different. And for you, for me, for you to have that courage to say that too, because so often we won't say that. We'll be like, oh, I have to because it's blah, blah, blah. But it was such perfect timing because, and I went, oh, Julia, you have no idea. It's perfect for me too. And we both laughed about it and we're like, hi, bye. And we went off and did our own thing, right? And now we are here now. But if you felt compelled that you had to stick to that time, then there is no question in your world of where am I at either. And so then you show up, I show up, neither of us are really in the mood or, you know, whatever, and may not give, I mean, I'm sure we would have given our best, but do you know what I mean? It's like, but you're not in question. And it's like, so then we just do this podcast. Whereas the fact that you said that, I was so impressed that you came on and did that and chose that. And then it gave me the space and the freedom. So what I'm going to put out there into the world is, what if you stop judging your choices? And what if you followed the energy? And that moment where you do go, because your body's like, seriously, I've been at this computer for hours. I need to stand up. I need to run. I need to swim. I need to, I don't know, go cook a meal. Like, I find cooking very relaxing, you know? So you need to choose something different. So if each and every single one of us chose what works for us, from not from judgment, from choice, would that be an inspiration for others to choose that as well? And would we change the culture of how we interact with each other? Would we be more like an ecosystem like nature? That's my question.
And the cool thing is, you know, I think there's this beautiful quote that says, you know, nature doesn't hurry and yet everything is accomplished. And I think the fear that we always have is that we don't get everything accomplished and things are running away. But that's also my experience. Every time I'm in that stress state, and I tend to burn out. So that's why I'm very aware of it, and I have all of my routines in place, and I know my early warning signals and so on. Every time I'm in that stress state, I don't feel well and I don't feel like I'm getting everything accomplished. And then when I kind of switch back into the Zen Julia that, you know, is calm and trusts these things, then I get so much more done. And I'm always like, wow, this is incredible, you know?
Is it easy?
Right. It's easy. And it doesn't have to be hard.
No, it doesn't. No, it
Yeah.
doesn't. I love that quote about nature because it's true.
Totally.
I mean, you know, nature isn't freaking out about the sun, the rain, the wind. Oh, my seed's going to go over there. When are the bees turning up to pollinate? Like, you know, they're not doing that. And they do. They get everything accomplished and more. And the thing that about nature too is they don't have a judgment about destruction. I mean, there's some, you know, there's some plants, bush in Australia that will not grow unless there's a bushfire. Like, that's how it seeds, right? So it's like, there's no judgment that there's been a bushfire. It's like, there's another, you know, generation of another plant. It's like, that's, you know, so we judge we can't destroy something. What if you can destroy something? Like, what if it was time to give up a relationship, or it's time to give up a business, or time to give up, you know, something that you're doing, and you think that you've got to keep doing it because you've always done it? Well, no, this is your life. It's like, are you living it? You know, like, choose the greatest you can choose. Like, what if this is one thing I notice a lot, Julia, is so many people be greater than others. But my question is, are you being the best version of you? Like, are you being as great as what you could be?
Yeah, that's a good question. Do you have a journaling practice to ask yourself these questions? How do you get to the bottom of things sometimes when maybe the choice is not super clear, right? Because some choices are obviously more difficult and some are easier than others.
Yeah. I have a lot of different, I have chaos. That's actually what I have, is what I'm going to say.
Okay.
I mean, in Access Consciousness, there's so many questions. I mean, the main sort of part about Access Consciousness too is being in question. I mean, I always loved studying. I loved studying Socrates at school, and Socrates was the same. He was always like, ask questions. Like, question everything, you know, and even from the basis of like, I know something's going great. Well, how does it get any better than this? What else is possible? Like, I mean, this morning I was asking, okay, universe, show me something that I have not yet been willing to receive. Universe, show me something beautiful today. And it's like this interaction, this engagement we can have with consciousness, with our awareness and being in question. And then I have, I'm terrible at writing. I definitely could have made that joke of being a doctor, but I have like little notepads and I write stuff down when I remember. And then I go to read it and go, seriously, Simone? I'm like, what was that? But I also have on my phone, I will set little reminders off, like on my calendar. I mean, I have questions on my calendar every day of like, you know, what future am I aware of that I can bring into the now to actualize. And one of the tools I'm using a lot at the moment is, I know have it on my phone, is 100,000 kilometers outside of me, because one of the things you look at is your body is here, like we can touch our bodies. And a lot of the times I will put my hands on my body somewhere and just be really present with all the molecules in my body and have a little chat to it. But our being, we so often try and shove our being in our body, and it's not true. Our being is massive. So even like right now, if you're listening to this, it's like put your hands on your body somewhere, and it's like you have this contact and this connection with your body. Now perceive your being. Like, it's like, where are you? Are you everywhere? Like go 100,000 kilometers or miles, whatever it is for you, outside of your body, because you have the capacity to perceive all of the oceans, all of the lakes, all of the mountains, the whole entire earth, like what's going on. And I mean, there's, you always hear about people who go, oh, I had this going on, and then there's an earthquake somewhere, or, a volcano erupts. And it's like, we are so much more aware than what we're willing to acknowledge. And a lot of the times when you try and make things like relevant and stressed and contracted, a lot of people sort of do this thing of like trying to shove themselves in their body or be in a really small confined space. No matter where you are, it's like just like 100,000 kilometers outside of your body. Now what are you aware of? And what are you making relevant that isn't relevant? What are you reacting to? Like we were talking about before, what are you reacting to that is not necessary? What choices do I have available? And one of the questions I would ask a lot is, if I choose this, where will my life be in 5 years' time? Because I notice how, and a lot of the times I'm like, oh, it's really not relevant. It's like you're trying to make these things so important, and it's like, it's not relevant.
Yeah. It's not important in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, so powerful. There's a really cool book that I just thought of as you were talking about this. It's called The Afterlife of Billy Fingers. You heard of it?
No, I
It's
haven't.
basically written by his sister, and Billy Finger dies, and then he kind of gets in contact with his sister and communicates with her about the learnings and insights he has as he is, not on planet Earth anymore.
Yeah.
And it's really powerful because one of the biggest learnings that I actually had from this book was that he was saying, no matter which choice you make, it's actually not going to be better or worse than the other. Like, it's just going to take you on a different path, but the path at the end of the day is not better or worse. And I thought it was so powerful, right? Because sometimes we wonder, what would my life be if I would have made this choice? Or I oftentimes see people avoiding making choices and decisions because they're so afraid of it, but it keeps them so stagnant, and then we don't move forward, and then we don't learn, and we don't grow because we're just afraid in this bubble of our comfort zone. And so asking yourself that
I love
question
that.
is really
Yeah.
powerful.
Well, I would say, Julia, I probably made more bad choices than most people have chosen. It's not about getting it right. It's choose. And you choose and you go, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't my smartest choice or whatever, but then you get to choose again, but sitting back trying to work it out and figure out the right choice, it's like, come on, it's like live. Life is an adventure. It's like choose. You stumble, you fall. It doesn't matter if you stumble and fall. What are you going to do the next day? You're going to brush your knees off and move on? Or are you going to go back into a corner and try and figure it out? It's like, for me, I don't want to figure it out. I want to live, keep moving forward and exploring, no matter what it takes, no matter what it looks like.
Yeah. I totally agree. Do you have any new yes, it's interesting you've written 3 books, but you said
Yes.
you're not a good writer. Do you have any new books in the pipeline? Any new things that you're planning for 2023?
I do. And it's another one on business. And I don't know what I'm going to call it at the moment. The working title is Business Done Different. But I have a different way of writing books because I take a lot of the stuff from my classes and then I get it transcribed. And so, and then I actually have someone who turns it more into written, because I get a bit pedantic about, I don't like slang in written, but I would tend to speak with short and speak, slang or whatever when I'm talking. So then I get that changed and then I read through it and I have a look and I add things in, etc. So yeah, that's what I'm working on at the moment. But I take a bit of time to write a book. It's not something that I'm like, right, I've got to get it done. I allow it to show up because there's always more information that's showing up as well. So yeah, but that's what I'm working on.
Very cool. Well, I think this podcast is definitely much better than I had hoped for, and is definitely better than what we could have created together on March 8th when we had our first appointment. And I'm so glad that we brought this out into the world today and this message into the world, because it's really, these 2 questions can make such a difference. And I think it's so beautiful to think about it in a different way. And it definitely will make me think more about how to let go of time, because I think I'm definitely someone that's very holding on tight to time as well. And it's I think if I could let go of that, then I wouldn't have as high expectations of myself sometimes as well.
Can I just add something else there though too? Because it's sort of like a fine line, because you don't sort of want to go, oh, I let go of time now, whatever. Like for me, if I have an appointment with someone, it's like, I show up on time because I think it's not honoring to the other person to not show up. So it's not like you just know, oh no, I'm just going to do whatever. But it's, the difference when time is constricting and then when time is a way that you can navigate your choices. You know what I mean? It's like you are the only one that knows how you choose and when you choose and what you choose and why you choose, etc. But yeah, it's not letting it control you. That's probably a better way to say it.
I love
Because
that.
if we let time control us, then you are not the source of change anymore. It's time, So yeah, it's constricted.
Yeah, totally. I love that. Thank you so much for adding that. Yeah, I agree. It's an important distinguishment to make. Simone, how can people best connect with you if they are curious to learn more about you?
Google my name, because there's no other Simone Milasas. So it's SIMONE MILASAS, and that is my Instagram handle, which a lot of stuff is on my Instagram, also my website, and also SimoneMilasas.com and accessconsciousness.com. You can find access consciousness facilitators all over the world. So I highly recommend finding a practitioner or facilitator and getting your bars run. That is one of the first things in Access that we do. It's a hands-on process on the head, and it definitely starts to relax you.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. It was so wonderful to chat with you. And for those of you that are listening right now and you feel like this message needs to be shared, then we would really appreciate it if you would share this podcast episode with a family member or a friend that really needs to hear this message today and that maybe needs to let go a little bit more of time and relax into their lives. And as always, you can listen to the podcast Stressed on Apple and all the other different podcast channels, and obviously also watch this video today on YouTube. So if you are curious to learn more, obviously check out Simone. I will leave all of the different links in the show notes as well. And I hope to hear you again next week.
Thanks, Julia. Bye.
Thank you, Simone. Bye-bye.